It starts with the lower leg muscles and then it works up through the body, and in the very severe cases the heart and the lungs are affected.
It's always on my mind because we don't really know what Ben's life expectancy is. There are men out there who are still living in their 40s, but there are still a lot of boys that die somewhere in their 20s, so it's a wide spectrum, so we don't really know what his expectancy is.
Yeah, I think with Ben's condition, because of the particular type of deletions that he has, because of the actual type of Duchenne muscular dystrophy that he has, we think that it will obviously be the longer part of it. We certainly hope it will be, and we're always hopeful that the scientists will obviously come up with the research and the cure within that time. So there's always hope that he will have a full and normal life expectancy. We hope.
Well, at first I didn't really notice anything, but I think my parents did, so they spoke to the doctors, and that was kind of good that they noticed it and that we managed to get to speak to the doctors.
I think on the whole, the sort of condition that Ben has, because it's quite rare, it's difficult for local sort of general practitioners of medicine to understand the condition because it's quite specialised. So the local GP, for example, has very little knowledge of Ben's condition and doesn't really understand it, and didn't even pick up on it, the original GPs or even the local specialists. It was actually the school doctor that picked up on it. So I think the kind of local general practitioners are quite limited in their knowledge of Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
Well, the help I received is good. Definitely grateful for it from my parents and my family and my brother that help me if I need things, and definitely the people at school and things that they have that help me get around the school, and my friends, they definitely help me, and the NHS have been good with my medical care, and that's good. We're grateful for that, and yeah.
Ben's condition, particularly at the moment, doesn't require us to, have a lot of medication that we need to fund privately, but there are certain pieces of equipment that we've had to buy that have been very important to help Ben. For example, the wheelchair access vehicle has to be a converted vehicle that has a ramp at the back. So from that perspective, we've had to purchase a new car. The vehicle we've got was a specially adapted one so that Ben can sit in the middle between the passengers rather than in the back on his own, and that was quite important to us when we were choosing the vehicle, wasn't it?
Most adaptive vehicles have them, so that the wheelchair user would sit in the boot, which we didn't want to have. We wanted Ben to sit as part of the family. So it did mean spending a bit more money than we wanted to, but it was quite important to us to have that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more being done to help DMD sufferers now, because technology has improved enormously. When we think of the wheelchair that Ben has now, it's like a small Ferrari, or he calls it his Ferrari, because he can zoom around faster than I can run, which is quite impressive. In the older days, of course, there were only push-along wheelchairs, which didn't give the boys much freedom at all. And also, of course, thanks to research worldwide, they're now able to improve on the general diagnosis and finding out how they can put the dystrophin back into the body. They have found the dystrophin, but it's a matter of how to get it into the whole body to 300 muscles at once. And when they can do that, it will be great hope for DMD boys.
The paediatric consultant, who are very, very good and understand Ben's condition in much more detail and much more depth, so they can help us to anticipate what our needs are going to be for his medical condition, and also just generally kind of give us some advice on treatments, etc. By all means, they're not specialists, and we rely on places like Great Ormond Street, for example, as a centre of excellence to provide, the specialist help that Ben needs for his condition, and they have much greater understanding and much greater depth of knowledge, because they understand the condition and they specialise in those types of rare neuromuscular conditions such as Duchenne muscular dystrophy. However, we don't always get great service at Great Ormond Street because we're on a bit of a conveyor belt, and feels like you're kind of churned through the system a little bit. Is that
Yeah,
sort of
I would agree,
fair?
absolutely.
DMD, as it's known, is Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and it's progressive muscular deterioration. It usually occurs in boys only, very rarely in girls, and it's diagnosed usually age 4 or 5 when the boys start falling down.
The government are good with the funding that we need, but they don't always give enough, and we do need it to change things and for stuff that we need in the future. And kind of, if there's no money, then there's no help really. And probably my life does depend on it to need this money for a better life. Yeah.
When we moved to the bungalow, again, that was as a direct result of Ben's condition, and we chose to move to a bungalow so that we could all be on one level rather than being split over two. And we were living in a house previously where we would have had to have put a lift in, and that would have cost us a considerable amount of money to have put the lift in and to adapt Ben's bedroom and adapt the bathroom, and it wouldn't really have been big enough, so it wasn't really suitable for adapting. So we took the decision to move to a bungalow, and that was quite a big financial impact because obviously we were changing our home as a direct result of Ben's condition. And having moved here, we've also had to spend some money on various things like ramps and accessibility for Ben. So, for example, the ramps, I think the overall project was about 22,000 from memory. I think it was about 22,000 to have all the ramps done and the drive done and all the other bits and pieces that we've had done.
Yep.
We're also just waiting to have the wet room converted because Ben needs a specially adapted shower with flat access and a special type of wet room floor. So that project hasn't gone ahead yet, but we have had financial assistance provided for that, and I think the project's going to cost about 17,000.
Yep.
So there's a massive financial impact in terms of the equipment you need and the changes you need to make. However, there is some financial assistance for that, and we've had probably about half of that funded by grants from the government and from local authority, and the other half we've funded either privately ourselves or through donations from people that have offered us financial assistance as a result of Ben's condition. The wheelchair that Ben has we bought that privately because the wheelchair the government provide is not really entirely suitable. It's a wheelchair that's specially adapted for Ben's condition and suitable for Ben's condition. That cost over 19,000. So thankfully that was donated by a charity, so we didn't actually have that financial implication. So I hope that answers your question.
Ben has quite a strong character, and he's also been blessed with an affable sort of nature where he is generally cheerful about things, which is a great help because he's having to put up with a lot, going to school with normal children who run around and do everything, play sport. He can't do that, but what he can do, he says, I say to him, what are you doing on Saturday morning? And he says, going shopping with my mates. And I think that's great that he's able to do that because of the wheelchair, ease of the wheelchair, and the fact that he's got a lot of good friends.
I know that the scientists are always working and trying their best to help me and others that are like me, and that I'll always be positive because I know that they won't stop working. So I like that. It's good.
But to other families, I think it's important for them to know that there's help out there, to enjoy the person that has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which generally would be a boy, but there are a few girls out there, but generally it's boys. So enjoy your son's life, make the most of everything you can, give the child every opportunity you can, and there is help out there. And if you're struggling, seek out some of that help, because it is out there to help you.